to 26.95%. Some analysts have described the recent increase in the interest rate on the treasury market as not surprising because the current rates do not match the prevailing macroeconomic condition. The policy rate is presently going for 29.5%, while average lending rate hover around 38%. Meanwhile, the government recorded a marginal 6.16% oversubscription of the T-bill sale to the tune of 1.88 billion cedis. It, however, accepted 1.85 billion cedis, more than the targeted amount of 1.76 billion Ghana cedis. Chunk of the bids came from the 91-day T-bills. The government accepted all the bids from the 91-day and the 182-day T-bills. 1.293 billion Ghana cedis and 422 million cedis were obtained from these instruments. However, it accepted 140 million Ghana cedis out of the 167 million tendered for the one-year bill.
And we've got to go back to our earlier story where the IMF and, of course, the World Bank spring meeting will be happening tomorrow. And my colleague, George Yafe, pretty sure has gotten a better connection and joins me live from Washington, D.C. to update us with the latest on that. Grateful, George, you could join me on the marketplace. I earlier asked you to give us, an update on basically what this World Bank IMF meeting will all entail.
Hello, Morris, can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, my data.
If you can hear me, how critical this meeting is? It's very critical because it is bringing together almost all the central bank governors and then finance ministers from around the world, deliberate on issues that matter so much to the global economy. We heard earlier on the IMF talking about rising debt of emerging markets, not just developing countries, and that is another issue that is going to be made discussion. So this meeting is actually quality of all finance. What they can do to ensure that the global economy is quite safe. That is their job.
All right, so what are the key issues that are likely to dominate these meetings, George?
Well, in your preamble, you spoke about the debt issues, and it has been a big concern for the IMF. And why is it a big concern? Because of the contagion. You think that Ghana having a debt issue is not a problem. Why should we care? Because don't forget that Ghana has borrowed from some banks, we borrowed from some international financiers as well. And any delay in settling these debts could have a rippling impact on other economies. That is why the IMF is working with this partner to contain or deal with these rising debt issue of all that it doesn't get out of hand. When I talk about the global economy, there's talk about US going into a recession. There's also talk about UK. And for you, some would say that, and so what? Well, why should I care? But when these countries go into recession, it has serious impact on demand for our commodities. So what can the IMF do together with the World Bank try and mitigate the shocks of these economies going into recession and how it doesn't have serious impact on developing countries like Ghana? That is why one, to look at how they can protect the global economy in terms of possible threats of countries or these huge economies going into recession, and also the global recent issues with US. There's a question that what again can be done to ensure that these shocks are contained and doesn't get out of hand, and also the debt issues as well. And that is why for most people in Ghana will be interested in, because Ghana's debt stock has been described as unsustainable. That is why Ghana MD is leading a campaign to engage the G24 countries, China, and even the Paris Club, if they can take the steps to help restructure the debt stock of countries like Ghana.
George, I'm struggling to hear you, but I want to find this from you. Is Ghana's delegation in town? And of course, what next?
Yes, of course. They are already in town. Those who are coming from the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, and also other actors and support. The actors and parliamentarians in town. Those are the World Bank as well. So they are in town. This meeting is very, very critical for Ghana because government is hoping that the behind the scenes engagement, they can fast track negotiations on Ghana's program that should be approved by the board. Don't forget that all the actors in Ghana was already engaged in the G4 countries, the what do you call it, the current.
All right, we've lost George there. We shall connect back to him as and when we get a better feed, and of course he updating us on the latest in Washington DC. It is a better time we have to connect with the an economist and also a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, Seram Kawo, for his perspective on this matter. Grateful, Mr. Kawo, you could join me on the marketplace. As you rightly heard, George, the issues to dominate the meetings would have to do with debt, sustainability, and of course the banking system across all emerging economies. Now, how keen should Ghana be on this?
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's an issue where the government of Ghana would have to look at how they are going to convince the other creditors to buy into their situation. And so what is currently going to happen is that, as Wafi has said, there's going to be a lot of engagement with these creditors once they are in the US to determine how they will be able to help the country, Ghana.
So, how strategic would you say our delegation would have to be in this regard?
Yeah, so this issue will be that we need to have so that the teams will be able to meet the various countries. There is the need for us also to in order to convince these countries to help us out. And also, we need to share with them the various measures that we have taken as a country to ensure that this is not repeated in the future.
Quite recently, the World Bank, came out with the report indicating that there's not been any progress made in, Ghana's quest to, settle the issues when it comes to the debt restructuring with its external creditors. And going into the IMF World Bank Spring meeting, how do you think things will be playing out?
Yeah, so that report that came out is a bit worrying for us in Ghana because that easily shows that our leaders were not up to the task. They've not been doing the engagement that they need to make. And so it's a great opportunity for them to ensure that they meet these people. And I'm very sure that delegation from Ghana, including Bank of Ghana, are in the US to meet these countries. And so there is a lot of power play in place. The political dynamics, the geopolitics of the world will be playing a role. And so Ghana will need to position itself in a way that it will not be seen as siding with a particular country, especially when Russia, China form the BRICS and other countries that are fighting the US. And so this very issue is very important for all of us so that our delegation would now show some bit of commitment. They go there with data. They don't go there with empty hands. So that when they are speaking to the data that is available to them.
Now, let me take you back to a comment made by the managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, basically appealing to members of G20 and, of course, the Paris Club to, forgive countries that, have issues with debt. And, of course, Ghana is of no exception. Do you think that message will sink down well to them, especially in this era of the IMF World Bank Spring meetings?
All right, thank you very much. If the executive director is pleading with other developed countries to help the emerging developing economies for debt, let me term it restructuring, where some debt will be forgiven or a reduction in the interest rate or grace period will be given for these countries. It also implies that the board should be ready to help some of these countries so that they also borrow from IMF. And so there should be some concessions that will be made from time to time. It's not a matter of just coming out on air and then pleading with these individuals.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new kitchen package of state-of-the-art appliances with innovations to make everything from meal prep to cleanup easier. Making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. Bring on spring with savings on select kitchen appliances in-store and online at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
At Rocket, we know buying and selling a home is a lot. Rocket has a way to help with that. When you sell with Rocket Homes, you can get up to $7,000 back after closing. Plus, you can buy with Rocket Homes and finance with Rocket Mortgage to get up to $10,000 cash toward closing from Rocket Mortgage. We know, it's a pretty big deal. And one you can get only with Rocket. Visit onlywithrocket.com to get started.
For purchase transactions only, must lock rate between 331 and 831. Call 8337-ROCKET for conditions and restrictions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
IMF itself must make some commitment by meeting these countries and telling them the plans that they have. And in actual fact, the statement or the plea by the director for IMF simply shows that if we do not work with these emerging economies, they are the people that we make the money from. And if we allow them to go down, it will affect the entire world economy. And for that matter, let us all of us work together to ensure that we make provisions and sustain these countries so that we can all be in business. And humanity is going to play a role here. We have a lot of hunger, unemployment around the world. Pandemics have endeavored us. And so this is the time for world leaders to show some amount of leadership and put humanity first. In that light, I am sure the plea might be able to work.
Are you suggesting that the IMF hasn't done that so far?
They might have done that. I'm not by way saying that has not been done. But what I'm saying is that after that plea, Ghana needs to go back to the IMF and get a member of the IMF board that are from some of these countries to talk to the power brokers to ensure that we get this deal successfully. We don't just have to sit back and tell ourselves that, they have pleaded with them, so they are going to accept what they have said. That might not be the situation. We need to be more strategic in whatever we do. And so going back to ask the board and the board members, and in fact, by this time we should have even contacted every board member of the IMF, telling them our plans and getting their views and incorporating it into whatever that we are doing. The backroom maneuvers, the backroom negotiations and strategies are very keen, and we shouldn't leave any stone unturned when we want to get this particular deal, which is very critical to the development of our country, Ghana.
Sarah, there is this growing uncertainty as to when we will get a deal, but from where you sit, do you think we can get a deal?
It's going to be very difficult. But from where I'm sitting and what we have seen, that all the conditions that have been set out in terms of the domestic revenue mobilization, when Parliament has passed the bill, there is a lot of kickbacks on this particular issue where industry is not buying into it. The consultative meeting that needs to be held is not done. And so for now, we don't know whether the president has assented his signature to it, making it into law, because that will be required as evidence. Then we also have to convince the G20 countries, that's the Paris Club, to give us some firm assurance that they are ready to help us out. Then we have to go back to China and get a deal from China as well, so that we can present all these things to the board. It is possible when you look at the pronouncement by the country director of IMF in Ghana and Africa, and then the IMF executive directors themselves, they are committed to it. But it's not just going to come on a silver platter. It's going to take some time for us to get it. You know, last year when this issue came up, we said that it is not likely that Ghana will get it in the next quarter. Yeah. And so the quarter has ended. So roughly we should be targeting this quarter somewhere in June or August for us to get the deal going through.
What are the expectations of the economy if positive signals are given by the IMF about Ghana securing the deal?
Yeah, the positive issues that will come up with is that a lot of the things that we do are imported, and so we depend solely on the exchange rate for some of these things. Businesses at the port are not flourishing. So when you look at what happened on the news for the last time, we are being told that port activities have reduced. A lot of the importers are not able to import most of the things. If you go to the spare parts dealers, they are not ready, they are not able to travel. Their capital has reduced over time. Some people have actually lost their jobs and their businesses through this particular one. So the positive thing that will come up is that once the dollar is coming in, exchange rate will stabilize, somehow reduced. That will also help us in the oil or the fuel that we import for our various activities. In that way, we'll have prices of items on the market going down. If inflation comes down, that will positively affect everybody that we have, everybody in the country. And so that way it will help us. But then if it is just a word of mouth that we are talking about and these things will not materialize, then that will not do well for us. And also our leaders, if these things are also going to help us, our leaders need to share with us the programs that they have. They need to have a wider consultative meeting. They need to listen to civil society, other political parties, those in academia, so that the ideas that we bring up, all these things should be incorporated. We need to have a lot of education on how we are going to go forward, so that these funds, when they come, we are not going to misuse it, especially when we are going to enter into an election year, when we know that political parties are only interested in political power, and so there will be a lot of expenditure that they are going to incur. But my hope is that once IMF is coming in, these things will be monitored and Ghana will be the winner.
Thank you very much, Seriam Kawo. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, sharing his comprehensive analysis on the World Bank IMF spring meetings in Washington, D.C. And Trust Joy Business, we shall be bringing you up to the minute on every latest development in that part of the country for you. Let's move on to some other stories. And the Tema region of the Electricity Company of Ghana has embarked on a swap as part of measures to help account for power customers while using illegally, aside other challenges. Now, out of the 99 customers visited at Spintex in Nwa district of the region, the power distributor detected 48 illegal connections, which included meter bypass, meter tampering, among others, over a 2-day period. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more. All right, so we shall bring you that story in our subsequent bulletins. But that was it for the marketplace for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Always a pleasure serving you. Have a lovely Easter celebration.
Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
The Marketplace Good Friday edition. Coming up, we'll hear from Senior Country Manager of PricewaterhouseCoopers, his thoughts on the tax measures passed by Parliament and why he thinks it will be difficult for President Akufo-Addo to make changes.
This change, amendments can be introduced or different things can be done. But the specific question you asked me as to whether, having gone through the parliamentary procedure, some amendment can be made at this point in time, I don't think so.
And as government moves to mobilize more revenue, we hear from an economist, Professor Charles Aka, who is asking for wasteful expenditure to be checked.
The expenditures are not that high. It's rather there's wastage. So what we should be calling for is efficiency in government expenditure and plugging down on or closing down wastage and corruption.
Also ahead, an extensive interview with Chief Executive of Maxwell Investments Group, Maxwell Ampon, who is advocating more investment in agric as well as formalizing to make the sector more attractive.
Agro sector within Africa is very much untapped and it's heavily informal. So we had the idea that if we were to enter a largely informal sector with a formal approach, that might give us, number one, a little bit of difficulty, but number two, it's a huge opportunity should we be able to succeed.
My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. In our first story, Senior Country Manager of accounting and auditing firm PricewaterhouseCoopers, Vish Eshawo, has said it will be difficult for President Akufo-Addo to make changes to the tax measures passed by Parliament recently. The business community has petitioned the President to review the tax measures and not to give his assent to it. But speaking on PM Express Business Edition, Mr. Eshawo said the President has few options now.
I'm not a lawyer, nor do I claim to know about parliamentary or procedure of that nature. But as far as I know, once the legislature has passed a bill into law, the only thing left is to receive presidential assent. I stand to be corrected, but I do not believe the president can choose to strike out clause 1, 2, and 5, for example, and leave the rest. So, to the best of my knowledge, the best the president can do is decline to give assent.
But he has 90 days, I understand, to work with him, that if he doesn't do that, he needs to write back to Parliament and give his reasons.
So that's the point, that Parliament, in its wisdom, has passed these bills into law. So if there's to be any amendment, it has to go back through the process. But the president cannot just sit in his office and decide to strike out or to amend or whatever else.
What does it make of the case for some of the interest groups that are still pushing for something to be done because they think that these taxes are going to hurt them?
No, I think it's fine. You know, associations, concerned businesses, concerned individuals always have the right and the ability to continue to make their case. And then as circumstances change, amendments can be introduced or different things can be done. But the specific question you asked me as to whether, having gone through the parliamentary procedure, some amendment can be made at this point in time, I don't think so.
Well, as government moves to mobilize more revenue, economist Professor Charles Aka is asking the government to also check wasteful expenditure.
Some of the taxes that have been introduced will end up frustrating business and end up frustrating government's own efforts at economic recovery and prolong a recession rather than overcoming them. And that's where the concern should be. So we are not against tax revenue, but I know some people are calling for cutting down on expenditure. And I totally disagree because our expenditures are not that high. There's wastage. So what we should be calling for is efficiency in government expenditure and plugging down or closing down wastage and corruption. If you don't do that and you call for a blanket cut down on government expenditure, we know that they will not cut down on the size of the government. They will not stop using their V8. So then eventually they're going to cut down on the expenditures that go to the poor. Rather, we need to look at what expenditures are useless or inefficient, where are the wastages, and where do we cut. These times, actually, all over the world, require government to raise expenditure. This is a time government needs to spend more for social protection, spend more to incentivize businesses, to create job opportunities, to employ the youth that are on the street, that are unemployed. This is not time to cut down expenditure. This is time rather for government to raise more revenue.
Well, the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana has been reacting to the tax measures passed by Parliament. It is asking government to rather scrap tax exemptions and cut down on expenditure. Now, speaking on Joy Business Social, the executive chairman, John Awoni, said government should rather look at widening the tax net and find ingenious ways of deepening taxations rather than impose new taxes. Listen to what he said on Joy Business Social.
The problem of this country is a problem of fiscal indiscipline. And so I will first of all suggest to the Cabinet of Ghana, the President, His Excellency, to begin to apply fiscal discipline. If I say apply fiscal discipline, I would suggest that you cut your coat according to your size. You cannot say the country is in crisis. You cannot say the economy is in crisis. You cannot say you want money or revenue to resuscitate the economy, and then you still do the old things as if nothing is really at stake. If a father says he has no money, and so henceforth they should stop, instead of them having food in the house 3 times a day, they must begin to have it 2 times a day or once a day. And then the next day or next week, the family finds out that the father has gone to buy a brand new vehicle. Would it be justified if the children and then the wife revolts against the father? Because if you don't have money to feed us 3 times a day, how can you go about buying new vehicles? So number one, let them stop buying the 4x4. Let them cut down their expenditure. Number 2, let them reduce the size of government. The presidential staffers, most of them hanging around, what is their use? Will the country die if they cut them off? If they reduce them, what will happen? They can reduce the number by 50%. Number 3, reduce the size of ministers, reduce the size of ministers. All those ones will come to service. Clap down, bring down the authorities under their various respective ministers, the special initiative under their various respective ministries. These are all savings. Next point is that cut off all.
And that was John Awini, who is Executive Chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana. Away from taxes, the Ghana Association of Banks is calling on individuals and organizations to live within their means during these times of economic crisis. Now, Chief Executive John Ewa discloses at the launch of the Financial Literacy Month campaign.
In a world that is constantly evolving and changing, our financial strategies must also adapt and evolve. We need to rethink the way we approach personal financial planning to ensure we are not only prepared for the uncertainties and the unexpected, but also able to achieve our long-term goals and aspirations. During these challenging economic and financial periods, one of the most important things individuals could do is to prioritize spending and live within their means. And this has been touched on by the panel as well. Practical illustration of the foregoing assertion implies the creation of budget and sticking to its provisions, or content, avoiding unnecessary expenditure, and prioritizing essential expenses such as financial management tools, mobile banking applications, investment platforms, among a host of others. To the CFLE Africa team, your dedication and commitment towards raising awareness about financial literacy and empowering individuals with the necessary skills and knowledge to make informed financial.
The executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, John Ewa, speaking there at the launch of the Financial Literacy Month. Joining me is Peter Kojo-Asare-Nyarko, who is Executive Director of the Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, to talk to us a bit more about this campaign. So what is financial literacy and why does it matter? Can you hear me, Peter?
Hello?
Yes, so I was asking you what financial literacy is and why it matters.
Great, thank you very much for having me. So talking about financial literacy is a combination of knowledge, skills, attitude, and behavior on how best one can manage his or her personal finances. So once you're able to use knowledge, once you're able to use skill sets, attitude and ultimate behavior, and it translates into managing your financial resources, then we can say you are financially literate. So it's a set of skills, a set of information, and one's attitude and behavior to managing his or her personal finances.
And so there's a whole campaign to improve financial awareness and financial literacy. Tell us about it.
Great. So in 2021, the Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa and our strategic partners, including the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Ghana Association of Banks, University of Ghana Business School, we launched the Improving Financial Awareness and Financial Literacy movement in Ghana. And what this movement seeks to do is to create massive financial awareness. So we have 2 campaign months every year. So in April, we do Financial Literacy Month. And in October, we do Estate and Gift Planning Awareness Month. So during this campaign month, we do press conferences to encourage people to start talking about financial literacy. We do community engagement. So we go to rural areas, we go to marketplaces to engage people on how they should keep and get their financial house in order. We do school outreaches, so we go to various schools, high schools, tertiary schools to engage students. We do media campaigns, so we go to various TV stations, radio stations to talk about personal finance and educate Ghanaians to get and keep their financial house in order.
Well, we are in very difficult times. We are dealing with an economic crisis, and so when it comes to financial literacy, it's very, very important. I think some of the things people have learned over time is the domestic debt exchange program. Hitherto wasn't a popular phrase, but now it is. And so I want you to touch briefly on essential principles to personal financial management.
Great. So talking about the essential principles, what we want people to know or what we want people to do is to, first of all, know their actual financial position. So we want people to take an inventory of their assets and their liabilities. Their personal assets, their financial assets, and then their financial obligations. They should be aware of that. And then we want people to also track their income and their expenses. So where your money is coming from. And one thing we have realized over the years is, for most people, their only source of income is themselves. And so once they are laid out of work, or once COVID hit and organizations are cutting down on their employees, their income ceases. So we want to encourage people to create multiple streams of income. We also want people to know about employment benefits. Aside your monthly paycheck, there are other hidden paychecks that your employer provides. Do you know them, and are you taking advantage of them? Some employers provide transport allowance, food allowance, and a whole lot of benefits. Are you taking advantage of those benefits? We want people to also start setting financial goals and working towards them. Very important. And then we want people to also start planning for their financial independence and retirement. There are times you are strong, you can go out and make money, but a time is coming where you will not have that strength. And so we want you to start thinking about retirement. We know life expectancy rate in Ghana is around 64, 65. So the probability that you will live long after retirement is high, because my grandmother was 120 years old. And so if she retired at age 65, he lived almost 50 years before he transitioned from this world. So we want people to start thinking about retirement and how they can put the right structures in place.
And so this is a nationwide campaign. So what are the activities that we're going to be seeing the whole month of April?
Great. So we launched the movement. We launched the campaign month on the 31st of March. And we have a lot of school outreaches. So on the 12th, we are at Koforidua Technical University. On the 14th, we are going to Central University. We are going to University of Education, Unibar. We are going to Sunyani, Takrade, and a whole lot of tertiary institutions. We have the FE Association also touching some schools in Accra, some high schools and junior high schools. We are also doing market outreaches. We are going to Koforidua Market Center. We are going to Sunyani Market Center. So there are a lot of activities in place that we want to touch every single Ghanaian.
And how are you involving organizations to be a part of this campaign to improve financial literacy?
Great. So we have a lot of strategic partners that we bring on board. And we also encourage them to share these essential principles with their network. So their customers, their clients, their staff, we want them to share this information. So we are working with the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Ghana Association of Banks, Prudential Life Insurance, Access Pension, and a whole lot of organizations that are coming on board to help provide this essential information to Ghanaians.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter Kojas Asarinyako, Executive Director of the Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, speaking to us about the National Financial Literacy Campaign as it's being dubbed for this month of April. Now, let's turn to other news. Ghana's agric sector is dominated by informal activities, and now is the time to formalize and make it grow to a point where it affects every aspect of the economy. Now, Chief Executive of Maxwell Investments Group, Maxwell Ampong, has been speaking with my colleague, Eben Sabote, in this extensive interview where he talks about the need for investments and partnerships in the agric sector. Take a listen.
I always say in calamity is opportunity. The agri sector within Africa is very much untapped and it's heavily informal. So we had the idea that if we were to enter a largely informal...
Sometimes you take a little bite and life goes ahead and gives you a whole pickle slice. Thank you, life.
And sometimes you spend $5 or more and the McDonald's app gives you 20% off the whole order. That means you can get a McCrispy and a Quarter Pounder with cheese and a new lemonade and still save. Thank you, McDonald's app. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one time per day. Visit McDonald's app for details.
Formal sector with a formal approach. That might give us, number one, a little bit of difficulty, but number two, it's a huge opportunity should we be able to succeed. And we started off by starting with a strategy that we didn't even know was a strategy. We're just nice, buying at fair market price and smiling. And after that, we got wind from the biggest agricultural trade union in Ghana, which is the General Agricultural Workers Union of Ghana, GAW. So in that space was that opportunity to grow, opportunity to innovate, opportunity to contribute. And we decided to make our home within the agricultural sector, and that is why we actually did that.
Having been doing that for some time now, is it an area that you recommend for the youths?
Definitely. The agricultural supply chain is not just about, farming used to be something that one would think you have to go to the farm and, and there's honor in doing that. But the value chain, Patrick Osocha recently told me, the value chain is so vast that if you're not farming, or you're not even selling the agricultural commodities, there's warehousing, there's aggregating, there's packaging, there's the tracking and logistics side of it. There is so much to do along the agricultural commodities or the agricultural supply chain that young people can always find a space in there to make a living. You need not get into the actual planting and sowing and watering and harvesting and all of that.
Where you sit, how do you see the sector, the agri sector, moving forward, or in the future? How do you see the country's agri sector?
I think years ago, and I need to commend the government on at least the mentioning of initiatives alone or the thinking of it alone is worth commending. I think we started talking about processing. A typical example is I think soybean right now would retail for the typical soybean retail for about maybe $800, $900. The moment you process it, it goes to about $1,800. So that's like $1,000 lost within that value chain. So I believe that moving forward, opportunity for Africa, for Ghana, for the subsector, for even the sector is local processing. But the problem with that is that machines are expensive in Africa. Labor is much more affordable. Whereas I think getting machines overseas is much more affordable, and labor is rather relatively a little bit more expensive. So getting a machine here to process and it's not as easy as it sounds, and which is why I, as much as we are advocates of doing that, anybody that wants to do that, it's we would encourage them to do it. It's just baby steps until we actually get there.
So how do we solve these challenges, like you mentioned, labor and stuff? I know you are doing a lot to better the sector. But how do we solve some of these challenges? What has been the most difficult in this journey for you? And how do we solve this challenge?
For us, for Maxwell, and I'm speaking for us alone, for Maxwell Investment Group, for us, our most difficult challenge has been to translate what we are doing in the field to our formal sector partners. Agriculture is largely informal. So how do you describe in investment, in informal terms, what the farmer is actually doing? And that is what we've been cracking our heads on how to really contribute to that. Because even recently, I think one of the biggest financial institutions in Ghana, who is our friend, and I think I would even mention them, GCB Bank. GCB, is the biggest bank by way of assets. Executive Director Sam Edu has been so helpful. He welcomed us into his office. We spoke about the agricultural supply chain and everything, and he was in agreement that there's a largely informal side of things that makes it difficult for formal sector to get in. But there's also a formal part of things, which is after the goods are actually kind of like standardized. So Maxwell Investment Group, our job that we took upon ourselves, you mentioned why we entered the sector. Now this is the clear answer. We standardize non-standardized commodities, making them internationally recognizable. Then it becomes like a product that the white man, that the local company, that any institution, whether local or foreign, can understand, put a value on it, and then that value we dissipate it along the supply chain. That way, I'm not looking to buy cheap products or less quality products for small money, cheating the farmer. Mine is a ready market that buys good products, sell for more, pay more, everybody wins. And then we all just, go about our lives. So we standardize, non-standardized agricultural commodities products.
So how has the market been for you? I mean, you did mention that you are a ready market and all that, but you also sell it to others. How has that market been for you?
Frankly, we are very, very humbled by the reception of the sector, basically. Recently, we did the MIG Business Forum, where we did it in conjunction with the Zongo and NICT Developer Secretariat. I don't know Honorable Benabila Banda from Adam, but when we called on him and said, we work in the Zongo communities, we are buying soya bean and shea nuts by the numbers in the north. We want to talk to the leaders and say, we want to work with you to add value, to contribute to something extra than just buy and sell, let's go away. He didn't shake his head. Our forum was attended by him, by Dr. Al-Hassan Andani even came, the Paramount Chief of Nasaguru, Ambassador also came, the Muslim Council of Chiefs came, they all came. And we also have the support of media giants, agro giants in Ghana that have invested. Woma is huge, right? Woma is a strong partner of ours who have contributed to the land, and that is what we like about Woma. They are people, they are not, I'm buying and I'm going, bye-bye, I'm taking my money away. They actually contribute. They hire a lot of people and contribute to tens and probably tens of thousands of livelihoods in Ghana right now. And these are the partners that have welcomed the MIG concept, which is impact products and impact services, where we don't just do products and services. We want to have an impact in the community that we are in, because we realized also early on that community is a big part of the business model. Without community, you're basically just buying and selling,
So away from the agri sector, let's move on to one other innovation that you are bringing on board, the USSD project. Tell us briefly about it and why you are introducing such a thing into your business.
I mentored one guy at the General School of Entrepreneurship who is now like a genius, a Web3 blockchain genius, right? Max Bunda. He has his company, Mineral Labs. They are experts in traceability. So that's where the idea came from. With traceability comes trust, comes confidence in whatever process that is happening. So imagine if the meeting I had with Mr. Samedi from the Executive Director of GCB Bank. If I told him that, okay, the agro-commodities that is coming can be traced or can be, you would be able to know where it is at every point in time until it gets to the warehouse where it's finally standardized, maybe rebagged and standardized by SGS or Intertech. These are standardization organizations that take our products, check the quality, foreign matter, the protein level, everything, and gives us a report to say this is the quality of your product. At that point in time, it's a standardized product. Imagine if before that point in time, there was some kind of accountability and traceability for the product until then. The formal sector would then trust more to get into that sector more, because I don't see insurance entities giving insurance to farmers. I don't see it barely happens because they don't know. And it's not their fault. There's risk involved in these things that we are trying to alleviate, but we do not want to complain.
And that was an interview with Chief Executive of Maxwell Investments Group, Maxwell Ampong, and in the marketplace this Good Friday. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Our top story is that Ghana yet to make progress with G20 Common Framework Debt Treatment. That's according to the World Bank. And charges undisclosed to borrowers in loan agreements null and void, according to the Bank of Ghana. So those are the stories you can check out this holiday on myjoyonline.com/business. Stay tuned. We will be back with some good programming at 5 p.m. on Business Live.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new kitchen package of state-of-the-art appliances with innovations to make everything from meal prep to cleanup easier. Making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. Bring on spring with savings on select kitchen appliances in-store and online at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Yanko Brazil maino emo na brantia bako okutia kumake twaibi. Wabawura bia ya nkwada toto fefe na wodeke ni bia nkwada yisua de. Watumi de kuma na kwetwa nkwada ni bi ma me no kase de nkwada no chese mako baye nan ena namso afiri mu aya rehosempa.
Abrantie bi a wokura ekuma akoto ahyedeke afo bi so e Southern Brazil ekum emofra ennan yenti Brazil mampanyine Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva e de atodwa se wei e ya wudisemu a onhunu beda okire mu se wonhyeda nim de kodie potia e ka abrantie no a okoko wura baby a emofra eko school nanso emofra nan ya wokum omo yi wadi fie be se efiri nan e de kɔ enso afoforo so ene prepraye a wode wo mo akoto Santo Antonio Hospital.
Sabe hosemo esi Brazil no so na media na pram to breakfast ya be so no medini nyina esi da busia me kai wo se wudu kumasi a Adom's fashionary wo no ene pamatari ya ehye mi wuhia mi a eya frame anache wa ba adresse wa na ye kokwa na ya wa de bi mu hyen etu ye mu fra se Linda do no mabomu akakra na wode afro pepo no ya kanso china fiada no so pepepe na se ye dru kwa ho nti bebi awo my Ghana bia no bo homodin so be share Adom TV Adom FM crew no e wo kwawu ko na ye ni agro na nyefe uhia ya no afre ye ho na wa ben ye ni atwa selfie na ye fefefe fire for fire e to so no mo ha.
Fireman, fire for fire, more fire, champion, SM for life, Kakai, Peoja, that's okay. Fire for fire, fire for fire, so fire.
Former president, and maintain for you. And much respect to Oma Isi and the head of communication, so we are part of the communication matters. Technical team led by the coach. Obeying from him,
say boom boom boom, no way about to say well. They say boom boom boom, no let me hear say well. They say boom boom boom, no way about to say well.
So the first thing they do when you wake up is check out highlights, and then you go remember, I for take the kids to school. He left small, he dropped the ball, boss. You go fit meet your deadlines without ever missing the game. Now you be true, boss. You dey make it to date night and game night, but still they catch the game, right? Hey, Charlie, boss. You dey bring you the best leagues for any screen top, wherever you dey. From only $59.99 Ghana cedis per month. Live from Super Sport on Showmax Pro. Sign up on showmax.com.
The new Mrs. Chima. And I'm not sure say your hospital go be if you hear the final way I get for your dog.
I still have your underwear in my office drawer.
I could never imagine you
would end up being my stepmother.
Anybody with the capacity to give you great joy can also bring you insufferable pain.
Impressor oil na capsules kura ahode nura eboa eyi yawa enam sasabro usisi wachiri bremo ne afei waposo nyina free ni padua no mu. Impressor capsules kura ahode a etumi boa esiesie no mpa eho akokwa nia entokuntokro de demo ene afei waposo gregira awewe no nyina esiesie no ema no ahode mfoforo kura wope edura obetumi de wo ho atoso na ayi wo honam ya wo nyina ade a ene impressor ne edura wona owo yafun yade mpo etumi no mbie se onom impressor capsules now the impressor oil to bia eye wo ya no a ene ene wato adi yaw bedwane entem so kra impressor yaw bedwane. This advert is FDA approved.
We've had news file over the weekend, and an interesting part of the conversation focused.
Oh no, we are out of range.
Oh, don't worry, Daddy. I have Alexa in my bag.
Alex, what?
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs.
On air. And you're back like we never lost signal.
Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
Say boom boom boom, no way about to say well. Say boom boom boom, no let me hear say well. Say boom boom boom, no way about to say well.
Shatawali, fireman me, fire for fire, more fire, champion, SM for life, Kakai, Peoja, that's okay, fire for fire, fire for fire, so fire. Shatawali, fireman me, fire for fire, more fire, champion, SM for life, Kakai, Peoja, that's okay, fire for fire, fire for fire. So far.
Assembly Ghana for. The day are you no? Or your captain? Eti. Said you were president. And now, o person national team here. Here as a president, only the captain of the national team bidding ko. Omo. Eti na bini. Who was a player say? Na go see apia. Eti me fire o busa player say akwesi apia who say ye person o you good for national team DBM na captain catch say o kwesi dey say we Ghana ni wa ye bida obetumi aye do say bi e no man ko yi but there is something good it obetumi aye since I would name Ghana for me, Ghana league, any players, and any, Ghana, senior Ghana, yeah, dear. It's any bad, with me. Fantastic. No president, I'll say, Hilton, yes. Always only say, oh, bet me a coach, yes, please bet me a coach, but on Ghana, and we name a no muyi. Enti ko de wono an nkofo ba e be bo no Chris you was say ye dey ama wo hu nkofo aboa na me hu Ghana fo a o mbetimi aboa na blasters na yi ni mi enu nyina abone be ne wo mu kan kire me fire ban you wo ni mi enu nyina abone be ne wo obi aye obi a me ba boa no na captain aka kese de kura no no o se mo pena na mo allow no anfa ne nkofo mra o ta si na kese ni timi nya na ho nya na dwuma mo hwese Ghana fo a o mo ye correct o mo bitimi aboa no o akwesi apia so se mo pena na mo busa me a ene akwesi apia no so we good because ono so coach national team ono nim Ghana system no to ono so de be hu ha o bitimi asa back abeye no mayi se no ano no obi ta obi wa obi mpo obi ase wa na akofa Christian say o me we chante dede ayo da bi o chire ne nkofo nyina no ye pe blasters me ya you people get back to the captain and talk well with the captain. It's simple. Moon go back to the captain. Na mune captain in din ye. Na mune captain in kan ye. Because captain me say, oh buata. Say current blasters here you who so mo Angola. Home and away wo Ghana. En kwa dia me say you chire me no ni mbo chan current captain. Ah, o 4 players who flow biba na ma wuta sa players no. Wo mu shim omo high level ball omo polo say serious football chan omo ye hu are you ready you do te say o ka kire me say blasters any football in Aki Williams a better nine a change than you oboa me boa ka kire me Sergio me say me boa ka kire me say blasters Jordan wa ball Africa ha uyi asamu ajamu ni wonu ani ni adede ni kula fi wa wonu na she goes dodo me boa Africa ha wa bobo ni bia with Ghana Jordan ko ba bobo e wa Africa akra ni yese wa emre me boa wonu di o dada boa won timi mo but on ne timi bo African football the power blasters na no hwe Angola away match no so hwe ise na we see running 90 minutes ema those chances ni timi buy painting munyina ye good players munimba ya drop mu for World Cup enkai wo mu baya na no no masa ahye wo mu ase wo bench masa wo start wo best and wo start wo best wo start wo best players na wo start wo best players ye bo ani e bo ya tete abete no na ne cha no ye tete abete no na ne cha minim say e kwasi apia wo sua time o ka so wo twen de I'm a US for na bre no the top players about so say was here o say da bi ya tete abete na ne cha no wo twa ma US for abre na wo di top players about na US for no mu say bi o magimi wo be ba na ma che wa bi o top players o na abu say yes kitwa wo mu buga bi ma hu say wo mu ntimi mo hwe timi ya sure say by this time akosi apia no why dey we sua dey let me move away from there me me person me catch am say must set up leadership ruler why sudden change even in Angola ye ko bobo party ni wo dede ni wo the next person why Jordan no akwakofa amati coach we broni pa wo de ye nkofo a wo mu ye bibifo ye so mu nya correct wo ye broni oba be bucha bibia about blasters even you read about blasters before you come obe ye research about blasters before you come and you demand over call it on FNI so munchlo structures and what blasters and Timothy and your kisuti and nimu hwe na captain ko bo amati na FF no ketukura kumu na de captain bo amati ana minyintum me se mo mamo kisuti ni yesterday one friend captain no ne nkasa yi ote na me ka chona se mumma mo Chris yuti no me fire wi asan se wuni ma be me fire wi asan na me nim say a big impact the whole world the whole Ghana a big Ghana ni bi o ba pia hwe me TV a big impact e be wuro bi asum it is a hour and the best show more minya fire o me fire sa me wi ana yuja sa o person ka se bi o person ba comment position more fire me say mon contract blasters coach Christy ni say masa so e broni o nye broni so e bibini so mi ehun so e bibini na ebia na o ncha correct Only the on your professional. What in American say because I don't get it. Sadly, the book just a little fool time. We don't do that. Young sir. Mosolia, na fireman the umpe na fireman the umpe blasters best Jacob. Wo person blasters best Jacob. Ada na wu ni kura wu timinka. Sadly, we betimi ama blasters abobo odom ama ya hye matches akọ afco ahye atimi Jacob ni busa o senjichemu e wo players ni mu a. Sentiasie ni players ni mu a. Chale tell them to stop it. Sa wo temase wo ntemase o. Me se ka kire wo mu so mu nyai. Mimpeshi that TF ni wo. Say you kuro say you kuro mimi koku agima fireman. Mimi here camera. Na me here picture ansa na makame no kuro. Me ni me rade ntamuni. E bia bontin abu hu se mi twa ntra kire wa na nye fire for fire so. Me nim na me ka kire. E bam fire for fire TV we so adum TV. Ni amimi nim no kuro wo mu na me ka kire. Obi anu obetima hye me putupa. Achira me nkanta ene bia bontin na obe meka bi fufuru achira wa fine but me am not like that no kura na meka chira mo se blasters be blasters bet magic na meka chira blasters intimi nikap akwa bi pezo odidi matam seju blasters mi so intimi nikap a obezo 14 years what in fear say 82 and a blaster J last cap yentimi ni biemu da 40 years wo kra wa di fie sai etimi aminim 82 no any 40 years now a blasters and no ma film basa politics o mun kan kra obi apese o de blasters ye ni business nti I am in charge of blasters any sikadie basa nti 40 years